Hello and welcome to UELtras on Ranks FC, the show that talks you through Europe's most exciting club competition, the Europa League, and its new baby brother, the Europa Conference League. I'm Jack Collins, and as we head into the second leg of the round of 16 ties, I'm here to look at each game and who qualifies to the quarterfinals from each. Let's start then in the Europa League, and I think probably the most interesting place to start might be in Istanbul. The first leg between Galatasaray and Barcelona was a really interesting battle. Dominic Torrent, Galatasaray manager and former assistant to Pep Guardiola at Barcelona, was asked about why he played so defensively at the Nou Camp, and he just sort of laughed and said, it's Barcelona. But he got out of there and back to Istanbul with a very credible 0-0 draw. In the last episode, I talked about Iñaki Peña, Galatasaray's goalkeeper, coming back on loan from the Nou Camp, and he performed admirably on his home turf. Gala will fancy themselves in front of their own fans, where Barcelona will get that customary welcome to hell greeting. But even still, I find it hard to look past Barcelona in their current form. They've scored 4 goals 4 times in their last 6 games, and this attack is really fully functioning under Xavi. Gala will have to gun the throttle a little bit more at home, especially in front of their fans. And I think Barcelona, in the groove they're in, and with the Europa League, the only thing that they can win now this season, will pick them off at will. Barcelona progress for me. Well, this game promised chaos, and chaos we got. Swinging leads, free kicks off the woodwork, a brace from Luis Muriel, a near comeback, and 5 goals. It was a proper Europa League classic. And truth be told, this second leg was one of the games I was looking forward to most this year. No holding back, gunslinger, kamikaze football in its purest form. But injury news has rocked the Leverkusen camp as Van der Kid, Florian Wirtz went off in their derby with Köln this weekend. And what turned out to be a season-ending ACL injury. Genuinely devastating news for anyone who's watched him this season. The German 18-year-old has been in absolutely scintillating form. And when you combine that with Jeremy Frimpong, who's also injured, it's a massive blow to the chances of Die Werk's self in both this competition and in terms of finishing in the Champions League spots in the Bundesliga. Look, Atalanta are not without injury issues themselves, but the form and goal-scoring ability of Ruslan Malinovsky, who's playing through an incredibly traumatic time for himself, and Luis Muriel, means that they probably remain favourites here with the situation as it stands. Can anyone step up for Leverkusen? Can they stand up to be counted with the boy wonder out? It remains to be seen, and it's very possible given the amount of talent in this squad, but I have to say that Atalanta regress for me. Rangers pressed their home advantage to the extreme in the first leg of this one. And while they travel to the Rajko Mitic Stadium, knowing that they will face one of the most hostile and intimidating pre-match walks and atmospheres in world football, they've surely already done enough with a 3-0 win to have booked their spot in the Europa League quarterfinals. Yet another James Tavernier spot kick executed to perfection set them on their way. And with Alexander Katai failing to convert one at the other end, what a save, by the way, from Alan McGregor, Rangers used their set-piece class, which was so crucial in that win over Dortmund, to put the game and perhaps the tie beyond doubt. It's probably worth pointing out that the scoreline perhaps flatters Rangers a bit. It doesn't quite reflect the even nature of the game. Red Star had 3 goals correctly, but ruled out for marginal offsides, all very, very close. They missed the aforementioned spot kick. Kanga also hit the crossbar in the first half. But none of that will bother Gio van Bronckhorst or the travelling Rangers faithful. I actually think that Zvezda win in Belgrade, but not by anywhere near enough to spoil the Rangers party, and Rangers progress for me. I had this down as a dark horse for a really entertaining, contested game, and that's exactly what we got in the first leg in Braga. The host dominated the first half, and Abel Ruiz made up for his missed penalty in the last round by scoring the opener in very calm fashion after it broke to him, after a little deflection. Monaco then grew into it after the break, and Braga's playoff hero Mateusz was called into action a few times to make some really, really impressive saves, but a real late dagger from Vitinha doubled home advantage. It means that Monaco have it all to do back in the Principality. They have the capacity to do it with some of the most, talented young players on the whole European circuit. But I do think the Braga have enough to see the tie of the line, especially given the form that their captain, Ricardo Horta, is in. There's very strong potential that with 2 young, inexperienced squads here, this one descends into pure chaos. And I think it could be incredibly entertaining, but Braga progress for me. This was all a little bit mad last Wednesday. Frankfurt scored a cross, relinquished the lead to Betis, took it again straight away, and then missed a penalty. And Betis, I thought, struggled with Frankfurt's 3-5-2, and in particular the overloads that Daichi Kamada and Filip Kostic were able to work down that left-hand flank. The fullbacks will both need to improve if Betis are to turn this over. But Juan Miranda's return at the weekend will offer some hope. Because Betis were forced to play Aitor Ruibal out of position there in the first leg, whilst Hector Bellerin could also step back into the side on the opposite wing. Frankfurt, though, poor as they have been domestically, they kind of know that they have their Andalusian opponents right where they want them. They like to sit in, soak up, and counter. And that's how they caused real damage in the first leg. Now, whether a home crowd encourages them to be slightly less reactive is yet to be seen. But right now, it seems hard to bet against them. Whilst I think a Betis progression would be genuinely better for the competition and obviously for me, right now, Frankfurt progress for me. I'm not sure where to stand on this one. I did think that with the level of injury crisis that Sevilla were coming into the first leg with, the Irons needed to come out of the Sanchez-Pizjuan with at least a draw to get this over the line. But none of those injury problems seem to have receded for Los Leones. Although Ivan Rakitic played on Friday night and Thomas Delaney will be back from suspension, which should bolster the midfield core, it does feel like Sevilla's injuries and problems, the likes of Diego Carlos being a massive absentee, have not appeared to have gone away. Now, West Ham have injury issues of their own, which is a potential problem. Not only is Jared Bowen probably not going to be returning for this one, but Michail Antonio and Aaron Cresswell both limped off at the weekend. Plenty of reports giving them just 50-50 chances to return. All of this means that the tie is on an absolute knife edge. West Ham will have home advantage and are only 1-0 down, which will breed plenty of hope in East London. But ultimately, the fact that there is work to do against the team who have won this competition more than anyone else will always mean that Sevilla are going to get the edge, I think. It's so close, and don't rule West Ham out, especially at home. But I'm going to have to edge it to the 6-time champions. Sevilla progress for me. Lyon came out of Portugal with a slender advantage in their tie after Porto had a last-minute equaliser ruled out for offside. It was a relatively even game with Lucas Paqueta's cool slide home for the opening goal. The only real moment of quality and a weirdly subdued Dragao, obviously, in the earlier kickoff with lots of empty seats. Not the atmosphere that we've kind of expected from the Dragao in recent times. The second leg should suggest a little bit more quality and a little bit more intensity. It's played in the later slot of the Groupama. But Porto will have their work cut out against the Lyon side who possess real quality in the attacking quartet and who have only failed to score once in their last 7 games at home. The good news, though, for Porto is that Lyon are capable of absolutely imploding defensively as well. They conceded 4 to Rennes at the weekend, some in quite bizarre fashion, to be perfectly honest with you. And Porto have attacking weapons too, not least in that combination of Mehdi Taremi and Evan Nilsson up front, who have been so deadly in Portugal this season. I think this could be a high scorer, but I also think it might well be a draw. So when it comes to it, Lyon progress for me. Let's go to the Europa Conference League, and let's start in the Netherlands. But Glimt did it again on home soil. And how important could that late Ola Solbakken penalty be to their chances? The AZ have, though, won every home game in Europe this season. And although they lost to Twente at the weekend, they will fancy their chances here. Glimt won't care, though. They've been written off numerous times, and they keep surprising people. I'm backing the Norwegians to qualify. Leicester have been haphazard this season, but this was a really composed performance and perhaps the trickiest tie that I think they could have been handed at this stage of the competition. I was really impressed with Brendan Rodgers' side against Rennes in the first leg. They still have to travel, obviously, and Rennes are in good form after dismantling Lyon at the weekend, but they should have enough, I think, Leicester, to get the job done, especially given that this is now their only real chance that they play in Europe next season by winning this competition. I think Leicester qualify. Was this perhaps the game of the round? You absolutely bet it was. The game where perhaps the Conference League arrived in terms of entertainment value. 8 goals, 4 yellows, and a missed penalty for good measure. PSV were up there in my favourites for the tournament. And despite the fact they're away from home, I do think they have enough quality to just about see this one over the line. Can it be as entertaining as the first leg? Probably not. But is it worth keeping an eye on? Of course it is. This one could, I think, go the distance. But I think PSV qualify. A Sebastian Esposito goal towards the end of the game at the Velodrome kept this one interesting, and it's beautifully poised as we head back to Basel. If this was pre-January with Artur Cabral still in the mix for Basel, I would maybe have edged this towards the home team. But as it is, Marseille might well just have enough. Without going all football cliches on you, the first goal is absolutely massive, and I just have a feeling that Les Olympiques might well grab it. I think Marseille qualify. Roma made hard work of Vitesse, who, to their credit, turned things around nicely in their own playoff run in the second leg in order to even reach the round of 16. But they did win away from home, Roma, and they probably do have the strongest, or at least the second strongest squad left in this competition. Any upset here would be a massive blow to Jose Mourinho as he looks to add a new trophy to the cabinet and to this group of players who I think are starting to buy really heavily into this project. I think Roma qualify. Two late goals in Prague probably put this tie to bed in Slavia's favour. Lask might have won their group, but the fact they've missed out on European qualification in the Austrian Bundesliga confined to the relegation half where the league splits suggests that this side is not quite right in the head right now, not in the right headspace, should we say. Slavia have been decent across this season, both domestically and in Europe, and it would take an almighty turnaround here to upset them. I'm not sure that Lask have that in the tank. I think Slavia qualify. PAOK's atmosphere in the playoff round was absolutely exquisite, and it roared them to a big win over Ghent here in the first leg. But the Belgians, spearheaded by Laurent Depoitre, will fancy their chances of turning this around back on home soil, back on their own patch. It was a relatively even affair, I thought, in Thessaloniki, and I expect a bit more of the same. But even if it takes extra time or penalties, I think Ghent qualify here. Feyenoord went to Belgrade and absolutely tore the place to pieces, winning 5-2 away from home. Partizan have been incredible this year domestically, but this looks like it might be the end for them in terms of the Conference League. To be honest, Partizan have to go and have a go now. And I think that ultimately that means that this scoreline on aggregate could really get a little bit ugly because they're going to have to leave gaps, have to leave spaces. And Feyenoord exploited them so ruthlessly in that first leg. Like anyone, I think Feyenoord qualify. Well, that's every game taken a look at. Just a couple of quick suggestions if you're struggling on what to watch tonight as a neutral. In the earlies, Leverkusen Atalanta, even with Florian Wirtz's injury, I think still promises to be an absolute classic. Promises chaos, promises goals. I think that's going to be the one to keep an eye on. And in the Conference League, Copenhagen PSV, impossible to ignore after that first leg. Also Basel Marseille, which I think could be very, very tight and very, very interesting. So one of those three in the early. And in the late, either Frankfurt, Betis. Betis, I think, have to go and have a go. They have to go and have a massive go in Frankfurt. Could leave it really open. Could be a bit of a goal glut there as well. West Ham, Sevilla, I've picked both of the teams from Seville there in my things. But ultimately, West Ham, is a question of now whether they have that bottle to go and do that, to hold Sevilla out at their own stadium, and whether Sevilla, with this injury crisis, can overcome that to get through. Again, if you're looking for a late in the Conference League, probably Roma Vitesse, which is relatively nicely poised, or Ghent PAOK, where the home team have to come from behind. Right, that's everything from this week's UELtras. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below and share it with anyone else who you think might be interested in learning a little bit more, joining the family, join the UELtras family about these two wonderful competitions. Thank you so much for watching. As ever, take care.